Imagine a country where education was free, where students from Korea, China, Tibet, Persia, and Greece traveled thousands of kilometers just to study. Imagine universities so massive that they had libraries bigger than entire kingdoms. Imagine children learning astronomy under the open sky, medicine from real herbs, mathematics through logic, and life through discipline and self-awareness. Where advanced sciences like aeromodeling, metallurgy, and plastic surgery were at its zenith. Sounds futuristic? No. This was ancient Bharat, a time when Bharat wasn't just rich in gold, it was rich in knowledge. And that's exactly why the world once called India Sone ki Chidiya. But then something happened, slowly. That entire system started disappearing. Universities burned, languages replaced, traditional knowledge mocked, students turned into memorizing machines. And over time, an entire civilization slowly forgot how advanced it once was. The scary part? Most Indians today don't even know what was lost. So today, let's go deep into the forgotten story of Bharat's education system. How it became one of the greatest learning civilizations in history. How it was destroyed. And why the world is secretly rediscovering it again. Today, when we think of school, we imagine classrooms, exams, homework, stress, marks. But ancient Bharat looked at education very differently. Education was not just about getting a job. It was about becoming an evolved and skilled human being. The word Vidya didn't simply mean information. Vidya meant that knowledge which frees the mind. In ancient Bharat, education mainly happened through Gurukuls. Now many people imagine Gurukuls as small huts in forests. But the reality was much deeper. A Gurukul was not just a school, it was a complete life system. Students lived with the Guru. They learned discipline, responsibility, focus, physical training, philosophy, science, and spirituality together. There was no concept of only marks matter. Every child was observed individually. If someone was naturally good at mathematics, they were guided toward logic and astronomy. If someone loved nature, they studied Ayurveda and herbs. If someone liked plants and animals, they learned advanced agriculture and animal husbandry. If someone was physically strong, they learned warfare and martial arts. The system focused on the strength of the student, not forcing everyone into the same box. Think about today. One student is amazing at art,
Focus on your
but
future,
parents
not
force him
this.
into engineering. Another student loves fixing machines, but society says only doctors and coders are successful. And slowly, people lose confidence in their natural talents. Ancient Bharat understood something modern systems still struggle with. Every human being is different. Every child's inquisitiveness and creativity was not only appreciated but systematically developed too. Their questions were welcomed and answered with patience, their ideas encouraged and supported. Education was practical too. Students didn't just memorize books, they learned by living. For example, mathematics was used in architecture and trade, astronomy was connected to agriculture and calendars, Ayurveda was connected to daily food habits and seasons, even discipline was taught practically. Students woke up early, cleaned their surroundings, served food, exercised, meditated, and learned humility. Because education was meant to build character, not just careers. Now here's the crazy part. Ancient Bharat didn't just have Gurukuls. It had some of the world's first major universities and research institutes. They rivaled here and in some ways surpassed today's leading modern institutions such as NASA and Stanford in intellectual influence and global reach. Nalanda was one of the greatest universities in human history. And this is not exaggeration. It existed over 1,500 years ago, at a time when many parts of the world were still struggling with organized education. Nalanda had thousands of students, massive libraries, residential campuses, specialized teachers, international students. People came from China, Tibet, Korea, and Southeast Asia to study here. Subjects included medicine, mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, logic, grammar, meditation, politics. Imagine this, a student traveling for months without airplanes, crossing mountains and forests, just to study in Bharat. That tells you how respected these institutions were. Then there was Takshashila, one of the oldest known centers of higher learning in the world. Students studied subjects like warfare, statecraft, surgery, economics, philosophy. This is where Chanakya taught. Yes, the same Chanakya whose strategies are still studied today. Think about Harvard or Oxford today. Now imagine universities like that, existing in Bharat more than 1,000 years ago. That's how advanced the educational ecosystem was. Now, some people think ancient Indian knowledge was only spiritual, but that's completely false. Bharat contributed massively to science and mathematics. Aryabhata explained astronomical concepts centuries ago. Indian mathematicians developed the concept of zero. And honestly, modern computers would struggle without zero. Because today's digital world works on binary systems, 0 and 1. Imagine trying to use your phone without zero. No coding, no modern banking, no calculators, no computers. One symbol changed the world. Ayurveda focused on prevention, not just treatment. It understood sleep digestion, seasonal eating, mental balance, lifestyle habits. Today, the world calls this holistic wellness. Ancient Bharat practiced it thousands of years ago. Sushruta described surgical procedures and instruments. Centuries before modern medicine evolved properly. Even plastic surgery concepts existed in early forms. Ancient Indian metallurgy was so advanced that some iron pillars survived for centuries without rusting. Even today, scientists study how this happened. But history changed. Repeated invasions and colonization damaged the educational backbone of Bharat. One of the biggest tragedies was the destruction of Nalanda. Historical accounts mention that its libraries were burned for months. Imagine losing thousands of years of books, research, and knowledge. It's like deleting an entire civilization's memory. Imagine if suddenly every internet server vanished, every school disappeared, every research paper burned, humanity would go backward instantly. That's what destruction of knowledge does. Then came colonial rule, and education was changed systematically. The goal was no longer to create thinkers. The goal became creating obedient workers. Macaulay's education policies promoted English systems, while traditional Indian systems were sidelined. Local languages weakened. Traditional subjects disappeared. Memorization increased. And slowly people started believing Western means modern. Indian means backward. That psychological shift changed everything. The saddest damage wasn't physical, it was mental. A country that was called Sone ki Chidiya, a civilization that once led in knowledge, slowly started doubting itself. It was not only looted for its wealth, but also ripped off of its pride and educational heritage. People became disconnected from Sanskrit ancient texts, traditional arts, indigenous sciences, local wisdom. Even today, many students know more about European history than Indian knowledge traditions. Now here's the twist. While many Indians ignored these systems, the world started studying them again. Today, yoga is global, meditation is researched scientifically, Ayurveda is gaining worldwide attention, Sanskrit is studied for linguistic benefits. Ancient Indian mathematics is respected globally. Even mindfulness practices used in modern companies often have roots connected to Eastern traditions. Sometimes we don't value something until outsiders appreciate it, like homemade food. As kids, we ignore it. Then later we realize how valuable it actually was. The goal is not blind pride. And it's not about saying ancient Bharat was perfect. Every civilization has flaws. But forgetting your roots completely is also dangerous, because a tree disconnected from its roots eventually dries out. Maybe the real future is not choosing between modern education and ancient wisdom. Maybe the future is combining both, technology with values, science with humanity, knowledge with wisdom. And maybe the biggest question is, Will the next generation only collect and reprocess information? Or will they truly assimilate and even transcend it to evolve further? Because Bharat's greatest treasure was never gold, it was knowledge. And perhaps it still is. If you want more deep research-based stories about Bharat's forgotten knowledge systems, follow now, because some stories are too important to stay buried.